Greetings, everyone. I am Lois, your friend for forgiveness from Walking Without Skin. And I use the acronym SMILE to describe what I do. I'm a speaker and storyteller. I'm a published author. The M is I'm a mentor. I is I inspire. L is for learning facilitation. And E is for empowering coach. Today, I'm representing MO2VATE magazine. That's MO2VATE. MO2VATE is an online and hard copy business magazine. So to get hold of this inspiring publication, excuse me, visit motivatemagazine.com. And today I have the special honor of speaking with Martin Sharp. He was a contributor to the 8th edition of MO2VATE magazine, and his article received the Editor Choice Award or recognition. Welcome, Martin.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
It's great to have you. I'm so excited to be able to hear your story today.
Yeah, it's gonna be great sharing. I've really enjoyed the journey. It's been interesting. It's been hard at times, and hopefully it'll inspire even more people. So it's going to help with your kind of main goals in life as well.
Fantastic. So we've all experienced change in our lives, as mostly recently as a result of COVID. But before we discuss the exciting developments in your life, can you please share with us, with the audience, your views on forced change in business versus change by choice?
Forced change versus change by choice. Well, change happens regardless. You know, it's messy, it's costly, it's risky, it's unwelcome in most cases because most people like where they are. And, you know, it is something that, you know, when it does come across, you've got to kind of work out what is the benefits for you. And like any kind of change, it's finding those values. And if the values of change is high enough, then you make the change and you make it happen. So with a voluntary change versus an enforced change, then obviously you've got no option but to do the change itself. And that can be something that's brought out from a business perspective due to the environmental conditions. I mean, let's just face it, we've gone through COVID. We've had to have a number of different enforced changes. Businesses have had to change their practices and the ways of working. But from that, it's a case of working out where's the value. How can I make things faster, cheaper, quicker, easier? How can I actually make it a competitive advantage out of the change that's come across so that the change as it happens, even if it is enforced, still has value for your business? Now, it doesn't always work. Some changes mean that businesses will go out of business, and you know we can look at that throughout the last hundreds of years because there are records around of great businesses that were established, you know, and had long-running working practices, but couldn't change, or when they did change, they got the change wrong, or they couldn't change because actually they just weren't ready for that market environment anymore. They were just too old. It was just a poor practice in comparison to what others were bringing out. And therefore, those are going to be the people that when the change does happen, unfortunately, they will disappear. But it leaves opening. It's a bit like a forest. You know, if you don't manage a forest or a woodland correctly, then what happens is it actually becomes quite choked. It gets quite old and things start to die off. It starts to rot and all that kind of stuff. Whereas actually, silly things like a tree dying suddenly becomes a breath of life. Straight away, you've got new space, you've got shoots that can appear, you've got flowers that can appear, you've got all sorts of new animals and fauna and flora that can appear in that kind of space that's just being created. And the same thing happens inside businesses, you know, when change happens and we see an older organization disappear, much as we'll mourn its loss, actually, we should be celebrating the fact that actually the space is now being created for something new. And we've seen that. If you look over the last 18 months and look at some of the most amazing businesses that have kind of sprung up, not just businesses that are out there though to create just simply profit, but businesses that are out there to actually help other people and create community and really kind of bring some of that spirit back alive.
Sure.
So I know. That's
You've
my view
said
on
a lot.
change.
You've mentioned a lot of things there. The rebirth out of the apparent death and destruction is one point that you brought up. That definitely there's something that grows. And in your article, you actually talk about reflecting on the lessons and the people and how you can carry what you've learned from that into some kind of a new direction. And that is something I wish that I had done. I lost a business, I went bankrupt, and I didn't take that learning forward with me. I walked away in tears, whereas there was so much that I could have carried forward. So the change can come through pain, as in my case, but in your case, it came through pleasure.
Well, it did in the end. I mean, it was painful, to be frank, but it was, again, looking at my values and looking at the business that I had at that point in time and saying, actually, does this business serve me anymore? And the reality was, I could answer truthfully, no. Could I have made it serve me? Yes, probably. If I'd put more effort in there, if put more investment in there, put more time in there, etc., it would have grown, it would have prospered. It was doing good things in good ways. But that's not where my focus was, and it wasn't where my passion was. And because my focus and my passion weren't there, it would have always been a chore as opposed to being actually something where I'll enjoy it and be able to really give what I need to. Because you know as well as I do, and probably every other business, or certainly small business owners that are out there in the marketplace, if you're not doing something you enjoy and you're doing it as a chore, then those extra hours that you have to put in, and you will put in, you will regret it. You'll hate every single moment of it. Whereas actually, if it's a pleasure, if it's something that is part of your passion, if it's something that actually lights you up, then spending that extra like half an hour or 40 minutes when you've kind of finished at the end of the day, or the extra couple of hours to write something up or to pull together some ideas, etc., suddenly becomes just part of play. It's no longer something where it's actually, I must go and do that. Oh, it's another millstone. So yeah. For me, it was painful. It had become a millstone. It had time to go, so I got rid of it.
So what prompted you to make the changes that you made? What was the catalyst in your life?
So for the getting rid of that business, or specifically around my own health kind of side of things, because obviously there's two kind of big angles there. With the getting rid of the business side of it, it was really a lot of what happened over the COVID piece. When COVID kind of hit, all my businesses were hit quite significantly. In one of them, I literally lost 98% of all my clients overnight between like the end of February and beginning of January. So I was kind of looking at that thinking, oh my God. Now that's actually one of the businesses I've got a lot of passion in. So that one's still alive and kicking and actually thriving off the back of that. And it was simple. I like putting the passion into it, and it makes great change. And I love going out there and working in organizations and actually saying, this is how we transform your organization. This is actually how we make big change happen. And I love doing it, and I have done for decades. So that for me was a kind of a no-brainer. The reason why most of the clients left that business at that point in time, it's like everybody else. The problems started to come in. What's the last thing people want to do? Change. And they wanted to like batten down the hatches, secure all the ports, etc. Make sure that no funds were going disappearing. All kind of change projects were stopped, all transformational projects kind of stopped. Everyone was just like taking that moment to assess and say, actually, we're not going to do anything. We're just going to stay where we are for a little bit and just work out how we navigate this whole COVID thing. And thankfully, out of the back of that, actually, people kind of realised they needed to change quite quickly, and therefore some of the big change programs started to come back into play. And yeah, being able to continue to do that. This other business, though, it was still hemorrhaging money. It was something that we put together. It was something that wanted to work. But like everybody else, I was looking at things saying, actually, I need to cut my cloth accordingly, make sure that we've got businesses that will survive going forwards, and that means things that weren't necessarily making the profits or making the cut or doing great things in the world that I really wanted to do, they had to disappear, unfortunately. So that was one that kind of went to the chopping board from my perspective. It might sound cold and callous, but at the end of the day, when you're looking at a business, sometimes that's how you have to look at things. The good news is that I was able to sell all the assets from that business. And be able to find people that not only wanted to take on those, but actually take on the clients that went with them, and make sure that they worked with the same ethics that I was working with. So it was really lovely being able to move that business forwards in a positive light. So now we're part of a bigger portfolio. It's something that's going to be valued by other people going forwards. And I think now that it is part of a bigger portfolio, it will get a lot more love and attention than I would have been able to give it. So in many respects, that business is probably much better off now, not on my plate.
And you have now changed completely. So do you want to tell us about what prompted you to move into this whole new direction?
So yeah. So obviously I alluded on the bottom of the article about the whole obesity crisis. I mean, it's dreadful when you start looking at the statistics and the information that's out there. It is just absolutely awful, and we're just sleepwalking constantly into this. And the thing is, the information that's being provided is so woolly and outdated, and in some spaces just absolutely wrong. And all it does is just cause people to create these kind of misconceptions and create more problems themselves. And I know this because I went through 5 years of my life trying to lose weight. I kind of, back in 2014, I was weighing in at 154 kilos, which was 24 and a quarter stone in old money, if you're that way inclined. I don't get me wrong, I was happy. I was successful. I was running nice businesses. I had a lovely family. We had some amazing times and holidays, and I loved helping people, and I was able to do that. But one of the kind of things about that was my health came last all the time. I used to spend a lot of time sort of sacrificing what I would do for others. So I would give them the time to make sure they got what they needed. And that was great, but you shouldn't necessarily have to get yourself trampled down to help other people. Like the old analogy says, sometimes you have to put the oxygen mask on first. So I spent about 5 years literally looking around, trying all sorts of different crazy things to try and lose some of this weight. So I went on kind of like the different diet programs, etc. So I tried things like the Atkins diet. I tried Weight Watchers and Slimming World. I tried things like the South Beach diet. I tried just, you name it. I've given it a go just to see what would go on, and then none of those kind of worked. And I kind of thought, well, you see, you've got two parts of the equation: eat less and move more. So I thought, well, let's go try and move some more. So I kind of joined a gym. I've had PTs, personal trainers. I went and did some kickboxing at a friend's gym because I was working down in London a lot. Which was good fun, don't get me wrong, but it really wasn't kind of getting me fit. And then I also did things like took up karate with my daughter. So again, we're trying to do things as a family, kind of bring more time in that way. And none of that kind of worked for me. So I joined accountability groups, thinking, let's keep me motivated. Let's get pressure on there. Let's get people like pushing. Because you do that with business coaching, etc. You kind of join these mastermind groups and things, and it kind of helps you because you've got people in there having similar kind of problems. And I even set up my own accountability group with some friends of mine that were looking to do the same kind of thing. And again, it is good, you have a good laugh, etc. But it really wasn't getting me the results that I wanted. And
if I look at that picture of you, you certainly look happy. You said you were happy, you weren't too worried about things. So what was it that actually made you say, I have to make a difference?
It was a few episodes when I was on holiday in 2014 that kind of made that change happen. So I took the whole family to Florida. We went to do the whole Disney parks and all that kind of thing over about 3-4 weeks. And we had an absolutely gorgeous time. We visited like the space centers, which I've always wanted to go to, and anyway, we got our photos done at various different places, and just one of them, when I saw the photo afterwards, I was absolutely shocked. I literally had moobs. Well, you can see on the photo there, I've got moobs. And the problem was these were bigger than my wife's boobs. So, it's kind of like a bit of, oh my God, where the hell did you go with this? And then I was kind of looking and thinking about the holiday after I saw that photo, and I was kind of realizing actually, I was being denied silly things like, I couldn't take my kids on roller coasters. in certain things. Thankfully, a friend of mine went with them, so my kids didn't have to miss out, but I couldn't have that experience with them. And then so like, as soon as you let yourself realize these little things, then all of a sudden all the other niggles that you kind of push to one side start to creep in. So things like, you know, I suffered badly from backache, which I kind of thought, well, it's just because I sit down all the time in meetings and things, and I found it really hard to breathe, and I kind of just chalked that up to being, I had asthma since a child, so, you know, I thought, well, that's just that, so I'm okay, I'm fine. And kind of when you added it all up together and you look at it in a cold light today, you think actually it's got to change. You know, you can't just keep going on like that. You can't have that rosy red face, etc., without realizing there's some underlying thing going on that's not going to be helping you.
Wow. So sometimes it's good to have that photograph, that unpleasant photograph, because it is that that catalyst that makes you see yourself for who you actually are. But yes, I think that's so important, that you weren't able to share with your children and experience things with your kids, and that must have been very, very difficult. And so well done on making that decision to make a difference. So you went and you tried everything. And I think I've also had that problem, Yeah. I think we all try everything, the shiny offering out there. It looks so easy, and it's been endorsed by so many beautiful people. So we all follow these shiny balls out there, and they don't work. So what is it that makes it work? How come you've achieved what you've achieved?
Yeah, I like the way you put it as the shiny object syndrome. I like to refer to it as SOS, because it's that moment of help. Because when you start looking at shiny objects, you realize you need help. You need to do something different. And actually, the big thing that changed for me, because obviously, like I said, 5 years of trying, and I got to the point where after the end of the 5 years, I was thinking, maybe this is just me. I'm not going to be able to change, you know, just be happy with who I am. And I was happy with that. You know, I could have settled there. I mean, I was still traveling the world. I was still making change happen in various different places. I mean, that year alone, I think I'd already done nearly every continent apart from Australia and South Africa. I still have to do those. So I was sat in doing a speaking event down in the Crown Plaza in Felbridge. Yeah, it was Crown Plaza in Felbridge. And I met a guy called Pete Bell, who just joined us over breakfast, and we just got chatting away. And I mean, Pete looked chiseled. You know, when you look at a guy and you think, actually, that's a really good body you've got there. And we're just having a good laugh and just talking about, you know, what his businesses were doing, how he kind of did that. And we kind of just brought the conversation around to, you know, well, you're looking amazing. How'd you manage that? And he said, well, I got myself a coach. I got myself an online coach that basically just meant I could work wherever I was and just get on with what I needed to do. And I said, you got to be kidding me. And he says, no. And he pulled his phone out and showed me a picture of what he would look like a year prior. And he was probably as big as where I was. I was like, wow. That's just amazing. So right at that moment in time, it was like, okay, I'm going to go and work with this guy. So I just asked him for the details, and I cheekily said, okay, well, how much did you pay? And I'd got kind of a figure in my own mind. I was thinking, you know, anything up to about 6-7 grand, I'm quite happy to spend the money, and we'll just get this done, get it nailed. I just want it out of the way, because, you know, if this guy can get these kind of results, I'm doing it. Anyway, he told me the figure, my jaw hit the table. It was nowhere near the figure I'd kind of thought in the back of my head. So as a business owner, you know that feeling when you've made money? It's like almost like the cash register going. I had that feeling. It was like, hang on, I've not spent anything, but I feel like I've just made some. What's going on here? So anyway, I went and had that conversation, and I spoke to Adam. And I've been working with Adam for 2 years now, specifically on my journey. Within the first year, we'd pretty much taken myself from 150, well, I was 139 kilos by that point, and we brought it down to just over 100. I think it was 101, if I can remember rightly. And then we spent about another 6 months, we got it down to the 97 kilos. And then over the last 6 months, yeah, you've got it now on screen. I'm now down to 94 kilos. So if you're in old money again, that's 14 3/4 stone or something. So it's pretty much, I'm about half a stone off saying I've lost 10 stone. And not only that, but it's like I've lost 40% of my body weight in total. And when I was first started, I got the whole body impedance check done, and I was over 55% body fat back in 2014. I'm now down to about 27. So again, it's just been everything. And as you can see on the photo you've got in the backdrop there, and thank you for putting that one up, that belt's quite significant because I've had that throughout the entire journey, and that you can see I'm holding outside, that is the circumference of my waist that I've got rid of. I've dropped from 54 inches down to 36 inches. So when I buy trousers, I buy 34s now, and they fit nicely.
Congratulations. That is one incredible achievement. Well done. And how has that impacted on your life?
Oh, it's been a massive impact. Just there's good and bad. Everything's a balancing game. So don't always think it's the good. I mean, look, for myself, I've got this thing now to contend with in my office. So this is my man cave. Welcome to it. It's where I tend to do all my work, etc. And obviously over COVID, we didn't have gyms, etc. So I've had to kind of build a home gym. That's been a blessing and a curse. It's a curse. It takes up so much space. It's a blessing because I can just work out whenever, which is great. Obviously, meals have changed. So significantly, my nutrition side has taken a complete overhaul. And that's been interesting as well. It's been, how do we fit in and still being able to have things like family meals and things, and things that the kids will like, alongside me actually being able to get the nutrition that my body needs now moving forwards. But we've been able to do that, and not only just do it now for myself, it means that all those little healthy habits have started to sneak into the rest of the family, and they're starting to do the same kind of things, not because they're in any kind of need or wanting to lose weight, etc., but just it's part of a healthier lifestyle, a healthier way of thinking about food and about moving and things. So that's kind of all been a positive change. And then, yeah, just I've never stopped doing a lot of things that I was doing before. So I've been a canoeing coach for decades. I've been canoeing actually since I was in the Scouts. So I just love it as a sport. It's brilliant, just paddling down rivers and lakes and seas and stuff, and surfing and things. So that's not stopped, but other things have. So for example, when I was at my largest, I couldn't fit into my kayak anymore, which was kind of upsetting, but again, I was kind of thinking, okay, that's fine. I'll just put a plaster over it. I bought an open Canadian canoe, so I've got a 15.5-foot open Canadian, and I just paddle that on the lakes, which is much easier for throwing the kids and the dogs and the picnics and stuff in and go paddle out to an island and stuff than trying to fit everybody into kayaks. So in some respects, that was great being bigger, because it meant I had to do that. But in other ways, now it means I can fit back into my kayak. So when I'm coaching people, it makes it easier to show them what's going on there. We just picked up paddleboarding this year. Last year, we decided we'd convert the open canoe into a sailing canoe. So I've got a 50-foot Bermuda rig on my canoe now. No, it's not 50, it's 34-foot Bermuda rig on it. So all those kind of things have really come into their own. So I'm doing lots more activities and enjoying them a lot more. And I just feel a lot more confident. So I've no qualms now about just taking the shirt off when I'm outside. Whereas before, I'd be constantly covering up, and I'd be very conscious about what other people might be thinking I look like, etc. So I'd take a very professional look about how I would dress. As you saw in the previous photograph, it'd be usually a shirt, a suit of some kind, or a jacket. Whereas today, I'll quite happily rock a passion T-shirt, throw a shirt over the top of it for an interview, things, and just, this is me, and quite enjoy that. So there's lots of different changes, good and bad, that have kind of come out of it. But the overarching thing is it's such a much better place to be, and I'm really happy with how my life is kind of turning around. It's great.
And what have you had to give up? What do you miss from your old life?
What do I miss from my old life? That's a good one. I'm a bit of a foodie. I enjoy food. Probably why I ended up as big as I did. So the way I work with Adam, and the way that, because I'm apprenticing with him as well. So over the last 18 months, I've completely requalified to understand more about health and nutrition and how you actually can do this. So I can try and help other people with this kind of obesity crisis. And one of the kind of key things we do is it's not about depriving yourself. So you don't give it up, because psychologically speaking, when you try to give something up, your body just wants to crave it more. You want to hold on to it more. It's really hard to actually give up something than anything else. And it's one of the reasons why, for example, people make big losses at gambling and betting and stocks and shares and stay in relationships much longer than they ever should have done and all that kind of jazz. It's because it's really hard to give things up. So we don't do that. You have a bit of moderation. So, for example, I really love real ale. Absolutely love it. It's kind of one of the nectars of the gods, as far as I'm concerned. But these days, I will go out and one thing that we do is me, my father-in-law, and my dad, and a few friends, etc. We'll go to a beer festival once a year, and we just sit there like old men talking about absolute rubbish. I'll use the actual word, but it's fun. And it's like a bit of a milestone each year. We kind of, it's like, yep, we're all getting older. Dad sleeps a little bit longer these days in the chair than he used to do, all that kind of stuff. And it's just fun. It's a really nice event. So I still do that. I'm not denying myself it. I still enjoy having that beer while I'm there. But, in other cases, I'm not going to have the beer, because I weigh up the options and I say, okay, I can spend the entire week. I can do my resistance training. I can do my cardio. I can get my meals on point. But if I have 2 pints of beer, all that will just be undone, just because of the effects the beer is going to have on my endocrinological system, how it affects the liver, how it affects the absorption of adipose tissue, etc. I know all this now. So straight away, it just becomes a fairly simple choice. Do I want to have a healthier lifestyle where I can go out canoeing, sailing, walking, hill walking, all that kind of stuff? Or do I want the 2 pints of beer? I'm sorry, I prefer the hill walking.
Can't you have both? Can't you combine the two?
That's a lot of hill walking, but yes, you can. And it's you can do if you want, but it's all about calories in, calories out at that point in time. So you have that great equation. If you want to have more calories coming in, then you do have to do more work to get rid of them. So if you go out and you do like a 20-mile hike and you think at the end of it, let's just go have a real nice pint, then do it. You can do. Your body will just get rid of those calories really quickly. There are some other side effects. So, for example, alcohol has quite a big impact on how all your hormones work across your body, how your liver function works, etc. So things like having a beer and then having the kebab and the pit crisps and the pizza and all that kind of stuff is just going to instantly cause you problems, because your body's not going to be able to get rid of the nutrients in the right way, just principally because of the alcohol that's in it. So you've got to kind of think about what you're doing and why you're doing those things. But being open to it and actually now understanding why it works and being educated into how your body actually absorbs these things suddenly becomes a much clearer question to have for yourself. And then when you say, okay, do I want the 2 pints? You can have that mental tot up and think, yeah, okay, I can afford them. I know exactly why I'm going to be having them. Whereas some days, no, I don't want to do the extra 20-odd mile hike or the 30 hours on the exercise bike or something. It's not worth it this week. And say with other things, it's saying, for example, if it's birthdays and things, I'll have a slice of birthday cake and I know exactly how it's going to taste. So I don't ever skimp on celebrations or anything else like that, but I know how it's going to affect me. I know how I need to then readjust things.
So how do you help other people?
So with the health and fitness side, it's the same. It's just the online coaching piece. So it's being able to sit down and listen to somebody and really understand what it is that they're trying to achieve in their life. What's their kind of real goal? Because one of the kind of key things is you need to understand where it is they want to be and understand what they really value. Because the kind of key reason most people don't stick at things like diets, because to be frank, most diets work. If you actually get down to the mechanics of any kind of diet or any kind of exercise plan, they do work. The bit that doesn't work is people don't stick to them. Simple as. So you've got to kind of hit that motivating spot. What is it that motivates people? What is it that kind of is that intrinsic driver? What is it that gets people out of bed every morning to do the same thing the same day every single day? Make things happen, whether that's you're looking after your family, whether that's something to do with your business or your career or your work, etc. What is that driving factor? So for example, for me, it was simple. I just looked at what was it that I valued in my life. I value my family, I value my my friends and I value my clients. And then you look at it the other way around. So if I don't sort my health out, then what's going to be the impact? Well, eventually, actually, I will no longer be here. I will no longer be able to help my friends, my family, or my clients, etc. And then that's going to be a crying shame. It'll actually, the tables have turned. In some respects, I might become a burden on them. And actually, therefore, they're having to deal with me. And I certainly don't want that. Certainly for as long as I can. I know I do keep joking with the kids. Eventually I will get so old that I'll be dribbling in the corner and you'll have to change my nappy. Bit of a threat, I know, but it kind of just highlights to them a little bit about the fact, the circle of life does happen. But I don't want that. I want to be handbrake turning it into the grave at some point in my life in the future, and saying it so someone can say, actually, he lived, he made things kind of happen. So it's finding what is that intrinsic motivator? What is the one thing inside you that can make you go? And then once you've got that, then how do you link your change, the goal that you want to achieve, to that intrinsic motivator, to that thing that makes you do everything? Because as soon as those two are interlinked, then it becomes simple. You just look and say, right, that pint of beer, is it really worth not being able to help your family? Is it really worth being a burden to people? No.
So once you uncovered that motivating factor, what next?
So once we've kind of got the motivation behind it, we understand where you want to go and what's the goals around it, it becomes a little bit more mechanical. So it's understanding what you need to put into your body and then how much you need to get out of your body. So it's simple, what nutrition we're going to work with, so how we're going to work with getting the right amounts of proteins, fats, carbohydrates, how we deal with making sure you get the right micronutrients in there as well as the macros. And that kind of gives us the values going in, and then looking at actually how do we get the values coming out, and it's going to be different for different people. Everybody's body's different. There's no kind of universal formula that says this is the way it's going to work, and to be frank, probably don't get it right the first time, and it'll be a case of we'll give it a go, we'll look and see what's going on. So that's where kind of the next bit of the formula comes in. We kind of have these check-ins where we look at not only the hard facts of what does the scales say, how many sessions have you been on, that kind of stuff, but we also look at how you're feeling, because a lot of how your body is doing can actually come out in how you feel each day. What's the kind of things that have triggered you? What are the kind of things that can make a difference? Because your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system's constantly being engaged throughout your entire week, and depending on which part's being engaged at which moments and for what reasons can actually have a massive impact about what results you're going to get in your body. So understanding that alongside the nutrition really then gives us this beautiful picture to then be able to keep tweaking and moving, because your body is an amazing machine. It wants to be as efficient as it possibly can. So it wants to get the best bang from its buck. I mean, if it was a business owner, it'd be the best business owner in the world, the most efficient business you've ever seen. So what do we have to do? We have to introduce those changes that we talked about right at the beginning. When what was to say about change? Change is messy, costly, risky, all those kind of things. And the same thing happens with your body. So as soon as you change the stimulus that you give to your body, straight away you become all those kind of things. You've added more risk because your body's saying, hang on, and I need to do something different. I need to now shuttle different nutrients into different places and make that work. You then start saying, okay, and your body doesn't know it's only a weight. Your body thinks it's a saber-toothed tiger, to be frank. So it's going, Christ, I need to survive. How am I going to do this? So you're changing the stimulus that your body's got all the time. And that means that it's constantly adapting. So you can't stay still. So what works in weeks 1 through 4 or something might not work in weeks 5 through 8. You have to change it. And what works in weeks 8, 9 through 10 might be different to what you do a year down the line. So it's constantly adapting and tweaking and altering and Arnold Schwarzenegger puts this really cool. He says you got to keep the muscles guessing, kind of thing. I don't quite think they're thinking that kind of way, but actually, as an analogy, it works really well. You do have to keep your body guessing because it is constantly having this adaptation happening, and that's what we work with. We look at these adaptations, and it's also it's great having a grand goal and saying, okay, I want to lose 10 stone. But 10 stone doesn't come off easily, and you've got to do it safely. Because one of the kind of key things, and most people have done that. I mean, I went through this. Most people have done dieting will have done this, where they're losing an amount of weight, and then get to the end of that process and put all the weight back on, plus a little bit more. And it's because your body goes through a thing called supercompensation, because you've basically said, I'm going to starve you. And it's going to get to the end of it. And it goes, oh, now I've got nutrition. I'm going to get prepared for the next time you starve me. And that's effectively what goes on. So you've got to then start to think about, okay, well, how do I manage that kind of process? And you can do that by giving people intermediate goals. So I never, ever, ever set out in life to do a photo shoot. That was nowhere on my radar. You know, I got no interest. I'm not the most fashionable person in the world. That's why I'm wearing a bright coloured T-shirt with one over the top of it. I live in comfort. I enjoy what I enjoy. I enjoy going out in the hills, etc., and just being me. So a photo shoot was never on my agenda, but it focuses your mind. If all of a sudden you're thinking, oh crikey, I've got 1 year to get in front of a camera, that gives you a near-term goal to really think about. Right, and a year is probably about a good amount of time for you to get your head around it. I mean, some people can achieve it in 3 months, to be frank, but you know, a year, it's like that's one goal, and then it's just setting different goals at different levels depending on what people want. Some people, it might be a simple thing of saying, okay, well, I want to be beach ready in 3 months. Fair dues, let's do that. And beach ready in 3 months might not mean having a six-pack. It might not mean building great muscles or anything. It might just mean toning up, losing a little bit of the winter plumage, as a friend of mine calls it, and just feeling better about yourself, you know, so you feel that little bit stronger and a little bit more confident, and that might be all it is that some people want. Other people, it's completely the opposite way around. There's one guy, lovely guy I work with, and he was teased throughout his entire life for being too skinny, as daft as it sounds, and he just found he just couldn't eat enough calories to actually make his body grow. And that was one of his things, was he wanted to go the opposite way. How can I put on some weight so that I don't look quite as gaunt? And it was like, okay, let's work on how we can do this. And again, it's exactly the same principles. It's the nutrition going out, the exercise coming as well, because to be able to put the weight on, you need to be building your muscles. To be able to build your muscles, you change your stimulus and make your body adapting all the time. The getting enough food inside people sometimes is the interesting part, because actually it's then you have to play with what they're having and say, okay, well, how can I make more things be more calorie dense? Whereas actually with myself, it's a case of how do I actually spread the calories out? So I'll have like a plate through of broccoli or something, and he'll have like 3 jars of Nutella at the same time. But hey, that's like I said, everybody's body's different.
So, and this is all done online?
Yeah, so it's all done online. And the beauty for me when I first started and was working with Adam at the beginning was I was literally all over the place. I mean, every single week or month I'd be in a different city. So I could never guarantee where I was. So that's one of the kind of failings I had in the previous 5 years. It's because, you know, I had the PT, I had the membership of the gyms, etc., but I didn't use it because I wouldn't be in the same, you know, city, county or country, to be frank, half the time. Or I'd just find some lame excuse as to why I couldn't do it that way. Whereas doing it all online, where effectively say, okay, this is what you need to do, and then work out how to fit it into your lifestyle. It doesn't matter if you're in Dubai or you're in Kazakhstan or you're in Florida or wherever. It really doesn't matter, because you find a gym, you can still do workouts there. You know what your macros need to be. You know how you can work around it and things. So again, it's not uber strict. It's not like you say, thou must weigh out 333 grams of chicken only, and that's the only thing you're allowed. It's like, you know, you kind of think, actually be a bit sensible about these things if you can't do it. So for example, I was in Bucharest at one point, and I was finding it really, really difficult to just be able to get roast chicken. You know, as a very simple protein source, but you could easily swap it for things like ham, etc., or other kind of meats, and just working with those and just understanding how you can kind of make those switches, and it didn't really impact my results. In fact, the flights tend to impact your results more because you retain more water due to the travelling and being so far out of the atmosphere. But that's a different story.
So what next for you, Martin?
What next? So I'm just going to continue to grow my practice around helping people in this obesity side of things. I really think there's a lot of education needed. I think there's a lot of people out there that need the help and assistance, and I really want to be there to try and fill some of that gap and try and champion some of that information. I don't know everything yet. I'm far off it, but every single article I read, every scientific journal, every book I'm doing, everything's kind of helping me piece the story together, so that I can just see what's going on there, and it helps me to be able to help other people. So I really want to continue to do that, and that's kind of where a lot of my passion is. So yeah, that's really what I'm doing.
Now, how do people contact you?
So best way of contacting me is either on Facebook or LinkedIn. So I'm available on both of those two platforms most of the time. Or you can reach out via email. So martinsharp@martinsharp.com. I'm quite happy to have a conversation, even if it's just a case of saying, okay, just a few pointers, which kind of direction to go in. I have a very high amount of morals and ethics. I don't work with people just for the sake of the fact that I have money. I know there are other people in this world that do, but that's not me. For example, it's only been last week, I said to a guy I wouldn't work with him because he wanted me just to do the exercise side and not do the nutrition, and I know for a fact that doesn't work. So I'm not going to sell him a product or a service which I consciously know will not get him the results it's going to work with. So even if it's just to say, okay, well, what would work, what wouldn't work, how can I get things done? Just reach out. I'm quite happy to have those conversations and just see where we go.
Fantastic. Well, everybody, if you want to get a body like that one that you see on my screen, not me, the one in the background, do contact Martin. Certainly his story is very inspiring. So thank you for sharing that, Martin. It's great. And I wish you well on your continued journey of helping others, and maybe I'll be a client of yours too. And
thank you very much. That'd be lovely.
And everybody, MO2VATE magazine, it really is a stunning publication with stories of inspiration. There's business lessons, there's personal lessons. It really is a fantastic publication. Do go and get it, MO2VATEmagazine.com. And everybody, keep well, go well, keep fit, keep strong, be healthy, be safe. Thank you very much for joining us, Martin.
And thank you for having me. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.